Thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. My name is Tim Bennett, and I'm the Director of Player and Coach Education at Trace. And I'm really excited about today's webinar. We know that August is by far the busiest month out of the soccer calendar. Some preseason is happening either for youth or for high school or for college, and coming off of the summer, everything's kind of getting ready to go. And so the guest that I have with me today, we had originally planned to do this earlier in July, but because of scheduling, we were just unable to get it together. But I'm actually really glad. I'm glad that we're able to do this now, because I think this is a perfect time, this kind of August preseason time. So I'm happy to introduce Wells Thompson, and maybe some of your fans, Wells, may know you as El Diablo. But we'll kind of talk about that we'll kind of talk about that as we go. But Wells is an MLS veteran, but he's also a really big advocate for youth soccer, and his stories of development, dealing with adversity, are perfect for kind of our busy month of August. But Wells played over 9 years in the MLS, was the 5th overall draft pick coming out of Wake Forest. Grew up in Carolina, just kind of a great soccer story. Before I kind of dive in, Wells, did I miss anything? I know you won the Open Cup, played for the Rev, played for Rapids as well as Chicago Fire, Charlotte Eagles as well. Anything else?
Yeah, I won an MLS Cup.
That's right.
I also won a Superliga title, which most people don't know what that is. I don't think they actually play that tournament anymore. But with the Revs, I won a Superliga title. And a lot of stuff along the way, you know what I mean? Like a U11 Charleston MVP, you know what I mean? I'm actually, it's funny enough, I'm in my parents' home, so like my childhood room, and I've got like my old trophy sitting over here on the side. So my room, my mom's turned like my room into a shrine. So that's why you see all this stuff about me.
So what does when your son comes in and sees this room, what is his first impression of all your trophies and jerseys? I can see him hanging up there in the back room.
Honestly, he doesn't pay much attention to it. Every now and then we'll be out in public and something will come up and he'll be like, my daddy's a pro athlete. And I'm like, hey man, you don't have to tell everybody that, I think he's proud. I mean, my oldest is 7, so he's kind of just getting to the age where he can kind of understand and those sorts of things. So yeah, I think he thinks it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like how he used the phrase. He didn't use the phrase retire. So at least he still thinks you're young.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I'm excited about this, and I love having guests, and especially someone with your background, because we're very passionate about youth development at Trace, and I know you are too. And so this, as we go out through tonight, we're going to pull out a whole bunch of different themes, but what I really want to do is be able to help tell your story to all of our Trace athletes, because I think your story applies to everyone, that everyone can become a success through different ways of development. And I guess this is probably the best place to start is, why did you start playing? And what kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're born with, what is why. We're born with the why in us, so I've got 3 boys, 7, 4, and 2, and their favorite question is, why daddy? Why daddy? Like everything is why daddy. And I'm like, because I said so, I'm kind of kidding, but I think it's just born in us. And so why did I start playing soccer? I have an older brother who was a year and a half older than me. We're very close in age. I owe a lot of my success to him. He started playing soccer at a young age, 4 or 5, and I just kind of followed suit, and my older brother was my hero, and I wanted to be just like him. And so therefore I started playing soccer, but my older brother really drove me. We were both very competitive from a young age. And I think it was very evident. My parents told us that we were gifted, gifted athletes. But I didn't just play soccer growing up. I actually played every sport. I'm from North Carolina, but I grew up playing ice hockey, golf, I swam, I played baseball, basketball, lacrosse. I mean, you name it, I played everything. And I think actually those things served me. I know that the youth game is a little bit different today. And I believe that there's a myth that you have to just give every single thing of your life to a sport from, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. But I believe that me playing the different sports and learning the different skills and in the various sports I played actually served me. If you watch me play soccer, speaking of El Diablo, if you watch me play soccer, you'll see that I actually led my youth hockey team in penalty minutes. I love the physical aspect of the game. But I was just a competitor. I mean, my life growing up looked like this every day, Tim. I'd come home from school with my brother. We'd play basketball, ping pong, pool, soccer in the backyard. He'd beat me. I chucked the ball at him because I hate losing. He'd beat me up. And I did that over and over and over again. And as I look back, I realized that all it sucked never beating my brother. I learned a lot of tremendous and very valuable lessons in the backyard.
Oh, sibling rivalries are always the best teachers of everything. What, with you being such a great multi-sport athlete, what was it particularly about our game, about soccer, that pulled you back either from hockey or lacrosse? What?
Yeah, I think I was most naturally gifted in soccer. It was soccer and baseball. I was actually horrible in hockey, or not great anyway, but I enjoyed playing. But soccer and baseball were my two best sports. My dad said that soccer or baseball was too slow for me, and I love baseball, and I actually wish I had stuck with it a little bit longer. But I just, soccer was it, man. I loved playing the game. Obviously had a natural gifting for it. And just excelled. But my life I'm just like a lot of you guys that are watching this. I never thought I'd play a day in college. I never thought I'd play a day professionally, honest to God's truth. My life, I went through a lot of struggle as a kid. Drugs and alcohol ravaged my life as a kid. And I actually was shipped off to school for a year and a half. So nobody was really recruiting me for college soccer. But I just happened to live 5 minutes from Wake Forest University. I knew the coaches and they invited me as a walk-on. So I've kind of always, Tim, been that underdog story. I know ODP isn't as big these days as it used to be, but it used to be huge, right? Like ODP was a thing. And I didn't just not make ODP. Like I didn't make it past the second round. And so, but I kept trying out. Like I remember getting those letters in the mail and crying. Right? Just like Michael Jordan did when he got cut from his high school team. I'm sure he went home and he cried and it sucked, but something in me wanted to prove to people, to everybody else, that I was good enough and I belonged. And so I look back on those times in my life and, I had the greatest parents in the world. They were always there to support me and give me everything I need. And I mean, I'm a new parent, and gosh, I just can't fathom. I mean, hopefully my kids will be involved with sports. I can't fathom the amount of miles and money my parents put into me and my siblings playing. But I think your why is something that evolves over time, Tim. Obviously, I think it as a kid, as a youth, I don't think I really spent much time trying to develop my why or figuring out why I'm playing. I just love to compete and I love to play. I kind of was like a lot of kids, just wanted to be a pro athlete, right? I didn't really care about school too much, which is, you got to care about school, because God willing, you're going to live the majority of your life not playing soccer than you will playing soccer. And so I wish, hindsight being 2020 and life being you live and you learn, I wish I could go back and put more time and effort into my books.
When you made that transition from high school to college, from essentially going on to, just to be a walk-on, just hoping for a chance, did you change your mentality? Did you change your approach? Was there anything that you figured out that, I've got to do A, B, and C to get to A, B, and C?
I think that, growth only happens in struggle. You don't really grow like me winning an MLS Cup or US Open Cup. I don't know. I don't think I really grew during those times, but like I grew when I got shipped off and I was in a lockdown facility for a year and a half and I didn't have any freedom. That's when I really grew. And I grew when I got cut from ODP every year. And so I don't know if necessarily, you're young, so you're not necessarily thinking about this, right? I think the most successful people in the world are the most self-aware. But as a young high schooler, like, I'm not sure I was that self-aware. I just know that I've always had a chip on my shoulder, Tim. And I knew, I mean, Wake Forest was getting the best of the best, Gatorade National Player of the Years. I mean, my best friend who was drafted, Ryan Solly, with me, like captain the USU 15, 17 national teams. You know what I mean? And so I'm just going in there, scrub walk on. And I loved it. I mean, I lived for the challenge. And, it's funny, when I got drafted 5th overall 4 years later, the coaches said, Wells, we never thought you'd play a day. And as a matter of fact, Tim, I was talking to my high school coach today, Chris Turner, awesome guy, believed in me, gave me another chance in school to play soccer. So I ended up coming home for 1 year before I went to college. And he said he ran into Jay Vidovich and Bobby Muse after my first year at Wake Forest University. And Jay didn't recruit me. It was Bobby and the assistant coaches. And so I think they just convinced Jay Vidovich, the head coach, that, they should give me a spot. And Coach Turner said he ran into the head coaches of Wake at a restaurant. And my coach, Chris Turner, said, hey, Wells had a good year, right? I made the all ACC team as a freshman. And my coach said, Jay Vidovich just hung his head and started shaking it. And the assistant coach, Bobby Muse, just started saying, started telling Chris that they had been kidding Jay all year that Wells needs to play. And Jay felt an obligation to play these higher profile players because he had recruited them. He's paying them all this money. And it just, at the end of the day, this is a long story, but I'll get to the point, is that Jay had no option but to play me. I proved that I wanted to play by my work ethic, by my tenacity, by my passion for the game. And I mean, the grace of God, man. I've done so many things in my life to screw it up. I've played with, I've had great coaches that have coached me and instilled in me the proper way to play the game. So I'm not just a product of who I am, of like, it's not me that did all this, right? And I think it's easy to get that mixed up when I'm telling my story and trying to share my experiences. But I had the greatest parents in the world, great family and friends to support me through it. So
what do you think? And I love to go off tangent, so
yeah,
you'll kind of bear with me
too,
here.
brother.
With your story, and you said that, yeah, you went through a whole bunch of struggles, and everyone could have doubted you or erased you or just kind of let you go. What do you think were one or two characteristics that you had that made people still believe in you, that made Coach Bobby and Coach Jay still give you that chance, given what was it? Was there something, how you played the game, or?
Yeah, I think there's you hear a lot about hard work, Tim, and people talk all the time. I work hard. I think there's a big difference between working hard and competing. And I competed every single day. I didn't know how to switch it off. I still don't know how to switch it off. And so it can be a very good thing, Tim. Like my passion, my enthusiasm, my energy, my determination. So my dad and me have mantras that we would symbolize to each other before every game. And this started at 10 years old. And the two for me were determination and explosiveness. And so before every game, I'd look in the stands and I'd go like this, and my dad would go, D&E, Wells, D&E. And so I just a very determined individual. And I was in whatever I was doing, whether it was, making dumb choices or playing soccer. And so I just wanted it, man. I just did. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to prove myself. And we can probably get to this a little bit later, Tim, but my complete identity was in soccer. I lived soccer. Soccer gave me everything in life, absolutely everything. And so I think the weight of that and the pressure of that on me just drove me to, to work really, really hard, to want it more than the other guy, to do the things I needed to do to achieve my goals.
The thing that I really like about that was not once did you mention how ultra talented you were, or you were just given, the gift of being very good with the ball. You were good because of things you could control, things that you owned. And I think that's the perfect lesson for development, is that the more that you strengthen what you can control, the more that you're self-aware of what you control as an athlete, that's really what makes you develop.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt, man. I probably the first one admit I probably wasn't the most. What's funny, Tim, I couldn't juggle. Like I really couldn't juggle until I got to college. I could juggle like a little bit, but like
yeah,
I couldn't juggle a lot. And that all these kids do tricks these days. I can't do a single trick, man. It's like ridiculous. I'm almost like fearful when I go places, and it's like, because I'm a pro soccer player, they're gonna be like, "Hey, will you show me a trick?" It's hilarious. And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'll show you a trick." And I'll just, I'll put the ball in between my 2 feet and pop it up like and catch it. I'm like, that's all I got. But yeah, I wasn't flashy, man. I was just, I was tough and I was dogged, and I just played with a chip on my shoulder, and I still kind of live that way. And so I don't know, I like a good fight, man. I'm a fighter. I like to fight. So,
and you run ultra marathons now, right?
yeah. So I looked for ways to fill my competitive void after pro sports, and I tried mixed martial arts. I still love mixed martial arts, by the way, but tried CrossFit, but eventually got into ultra running. And this is really the evolution of what I do now, which is soccer resilience. Really just that, man, we can do so much more than we're capable of. I thought the longest people ran was like a marathon. Then I realized that like there's these bananas people out there that run 100, 200, 300-mile races, like unfathomable, right? And so I ran my first 100-mile race last year, and proud of that. I ran it actually to raise money for Hydrating Humanity, and we raised $20,000 and dug 2 clean water wells in East Africa. So we're giving a lot of people water.
That's awesome. Obviously ultra marathoning is a much different type of sport than soccer.
Yeah.
But when we're talking here, August, and the people getting ready for their seasons, and they're talking about being mentally tough and getting ready, were there any parallels between the field and what you do now as far as becoming mentally strong?
For sure. I think that, and a lot of soccer resilience for me, Tim, is turning my pain into purpose. I didn't intentionally train my brain as a pro. I remember in Colorado, like most MLS teams these days still don't have anybody to help with mental health or mental performance, which is so fascinating, right? It's like 2021, you have ice bath specialists and acupuncture specialists, but no brain specialists, right? And so one of the questions we ask at Soccer Resilience in every presentation is, what percentage of sport and life stems from the mind? And I'm just such a believer that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. And so whenever we ask people this question, the majority of people say 70%, and the majority of those people, 70% are higher, and the majority of those people say 90% or higher. We were on 2 calls today, and 2 people said 98 and 98.5%. And so for me, I thought as a pro, training your brain was sitting in a circle, sitting on the floor, Indian style, with melodic music while incense is burning while you hum. Like I thought it was pie in the sky, right? And so I realized that and this is the journey. And I think a big part of what I want to encourage, players and parents and coaches is just to be a lifelong learner, right? Like I'm growing and I'm learning in this stuff just like everybody else. And so I've realized that there are a lot of practical, tangible things that you can do. No doubt, Tim, I learned a lot of mental toughness that got me to where I got to. I was always one of the fittest guys on the team. I learned how to push my body and my mind to places that I never thought I could go, right? And I think part of that is getting out of your comfort zone. I did a video this week for Soccer Resilience, and we tend to overcomplicate things as human beings, right? And so one of the things that I like to do, and I shared in this video, is that sometimes I'll save my run for the hottest part of the day. So it's August here in North Carolina, it gets up to 100 degrees, sometimes 105 with the humidity. but I'll run, and I'll run in tights and Thorlow socks and sometimes pants and a sweatshirt. And it's getting uncomfortable. It's doing things that it's like your brain doesn't want you to do. And so our brain acts like a governor, like when I'm ultra running and I'm getting up to 50, 60 miles, your brain's like, you're going to hurt yourself. You need to stop, because your brain's number one job is to protect you. Right. And so we have to decipher the difference between we have to be able to know ourselves as well, so that we can know when to say, be quiet, brain. Like, I'm good. I got this. And so that's when I'm running for hours upon hours in the woods at night, one of the mantras that I used often is, I feel great. I feel great. I feel great. I truly believe, Tim, that if you change your thought life, you can change your entire life. I don't know where we go, what question you asked me, man, but there's so much backed up in there, and there's so much, but I thought I better stop and take a breath.
No, I think that's great. I think it kind of leads into when we talk about development, when we talk about, a lot of our Trace players, they do want to go on and play college, or they do want to become the best soccer players that they can, the best version of themselves. And from what I'm gathering from you is that it's not just your technical ability, it's not just your tactical ability, but it's also your mind. And so I guess the question that I have for you is, what would you tell your 15, 16-year-old self about, what, not only do I want to be an MLS player, but I do want to captain the national team. I do, want to win the US their first World Cup. What would you tell yourself as far as training goes, besides the technical and tactical aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell myself a lot of things I'm saying on this interview. I develop purpose. I mean, purpose is so underutilized and often overlooked in terms of performance enhancement, but purpose it'll increase your motivation, right? It'll help you keep going when you want to stop. It'll increase your growth and improvement and your confidence, right? So I would say develop a purpose. I would also tell myself to have, and this is a big part of what I'm passionate about now, is being more than an athlete. And again, goes back to like paying attention in school and understanding that there's actually like a really big world out there outside of soccer. And I truly, truly believe that balance in your life leads to greater performance on the field. And so I lived and died by my performance. I don't think that's the way that it should be. So I would say find balance, find hobbies and interests hobbies and interests outside of soccer that you like. I was on a Zoom call with Walker Zimmerman, captain the U.S. national team in the Gold Cup, and he was saying, Wells, part of my secret is that I have friends outside of the team. Sometimes after practices, I don't hang out with the team. I have a life outside of the team that really helps me keep balance and helps me not stay so focused on just being a pro soccer player. And so he is way smarter than me, Tim, and he is already doing work to prepare his life for after sport. But I just think that like we were created for something bigger than ourselves. And so if we put all our onus and all of our energy just on achieving a goal, like when I won an MLS Cup and a US Open Cup and was drafted 5th overall, it was awesome, freaking awesome. Like I hope everyone is able to do that, but it didn't fulfill me inside. And so I believe that like your purpose is something that's greater than you. And so for me, my purpose is just to use my gifts and my talents for the glory of God and to help other people. And that's what I'm trying to do with Soccer Resilience. I mean, it's turning my pain into purpose. It's basically, Tim, it's the question you asked me. It's telling other kids like what I would do differently. And so what I would do differently is I would be more aware. And a lot of that, I'd be more aware of my thoughts, right? Like we're such creatures of habit. And we were born with a negative bias. I'm not a psychologist, right? But I love this stuff and I'm learning about it. And so the majority of our thoughts tend to be negative. And again, I believe if you change your thought life, you can change your life. And so you're going to go where you focus. And so again, that goes back to purpose. When things suck, when things are tough, your purpose is going to pull you through. And so it's really easy to get distracted in this world by a lot of things, right? And I'm one that is still constantly gets distracted. But it's important to remind yourself of your purpose. It's important to develop those things, to write them down. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. I think the first and foremost thing, Tim, is you got to be open to it, right? You got to be open to it. You got to believe that your mind affects your performance. And so, I mean, we're in a mental health revolution today, with mental health being in the spotlight of the Olympics, right? And you have the greatest athletes in the world saying, man, my mind is off. I can't do this. Like, I'm going to hurt myself. Right. And so we want to compartmentalize things. We want to say, like, I got my physical and my tactical and my technical, but it's all intertwined. And I believe that, like, your brain drives all of it. It's the engine, as Matt Spear would say. It's the hardware. You know what I mean? So there's a lot in there, but
No. I get pulled away a lot when I hear you speak. I enjoy it, really. I like the balance part, and especially on the youth side, when, you know, we're told, and me as a youth coach too, it's, we need all of you here. You know, you need to be doing this, and this. And I don't think as coaches we do a good enough job of realizing that we're a full-time coach teaching a part-time athlete, in that, you know, they do need balances in their life. And the more balance that they have, the better version they're going to create of themselves when they're with you. And I do think that balance, we often forget that we see our players just as soccer players. We don't see them as students. We don't see them as, you know, a BMX racer or whatever it may be. I think that's a really, really important lesson. And it is coaching the whole person, not just the soccer person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so passionate about that, Tim. I mean, I struggled mightily when I retired. I mean, from the majority of my life, I was Wells Thompson, the soccer player. Anywhere I went, it was, hey, you meet my friend Wells Thompson, he's a soccer player. And then one day I wasn't a soccer player anymore. And I was like, who am I? Like, I don't even know what I like. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's so important. And I think first and foremost, that has to come from within each and every one of us. Like, I only saw myself as a soccer player, only. Like, I wasn't anything else. And so that is so dangerous, because, again, like I said earlier, hopefully, God willing, we're going to spend more life without playing soccer than we will with soccer. So yeah, I just think, I think it's important. I think it's a conversation that coaches need to have with their players, that parents need to have with their kids. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, you know what I mean? And we all experience things. And it's interesting to me, like, yes, I was a pro athlete, and not many people become pro athletes, but society can sometimes look at you as a robot, you know, and I don't understand it. Like, it's, the pressure is magnified, right? And so it's important at a young age to build healthy habits. And one of my favorite sayings, Tim, is we shouldn't listen to ourselves, we should talk to ourselves. And so we all have an internal dialogue going on in our head. And a lot of times it's negative, and it's easy to get, because our brain wants to protect us, to get into negative thought patterns. And so, you know, it's important to feed yourself, talk to yourself, positive things, and fill your mind, your eyes, your heart. It's like, it's why your parents don't want you to watch rated R movies when you're a young kid, because they don't want that bad stuff affecting you. And it all affects you, right? Another example, I was talking to Walker. Walker tore his hand, or he didn't tear his hand. He hurt his hamstring in the Gold Cup, so he had to be subbed out. Well, what most people don't know is his grandmother died the night before. And he said he woke up that day, my grandmother had just died, and I felt off. Right? And so I think the point here is it's, yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but like,
your body follows your mind.
Yeah. And vice versa, because I think they work in order. Like, I don't often, like, I love working out, Tim. Like, if I could get paid to work out, I want to get paid to work out, because I love it. but I don't like to work out every day. Like today, it was really hard for me to work out. And so it's easy to like sit there and be like, man, just do it tomorrow. Just do it tomorrow. But if you just like get up and go to the gym and do 1 rep, you're probably going to work out. Right. So that's your body, your mind following your body. I think they're symbiotic for sure. And they both help each other. So sometimes when your mind doesn't want to do it and is trying to convince you not to do it, your body can convince you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think from a development standpoint, I think that's spot on, because a lot of the times we can be distracted. We do want balance, but we just, we go outside, we juggle just a little bit. It's going to become a positive eventually. Like we've got to figure out and navigate ways around it. And so when it comes,
Tim, on that real quick, is like, I don't know if I read a full book until after college. I really don't. I'm embarrassed to say that. I know that. I graduated Wake Forest in 3 years, but I don't know how I did it. But like, man, school is cool. It is really, really cool. And when you're done, hopefully after your pro career or playing, like you're going to realize how cool it is to like know and learn and understand things. So again, just explore, experiment, try new things, good new things, right? Read books, listen to podcasts. Like there is so much stuff out there that you can take your career, your life into your own hands. And I think that's a big message that I want to send, is like, be a lifelong learner and show initiative. Like when I was sent off to school, I got special permission actually before every meal to run laps around the cabins that we lived in. And so I would go out there and I'd just run lap after lap after lap, because I knew I wanted to play pro soccer one day. I wanted to play college soccer. So you can find a way. There's so much information out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think we feel that we just have to just learn about soccer. Like that's all we have to do. Is if we want to be a pro, it all has to be just about, everything in our life has to be focused around our game. And that's not necessarily the case. I think it's learning from other sports, being a multi-sport athlete. It's having balance in our life, and all that kind of world perspective, that kind of complete worldview actually makes us better. And the earlier we begin that, the better it is, the longer it's going to serve us. And I do think we make the mistake of that. We have to, and this isn't a discussion about specialization.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's finding a balance within that.
Yeah. I think it's like, there's not like one right path. Right. And again, you go where you focus. And too often, I mean, look, guys, everything that I'm talking about today is a struggle for me today. Like, running my business is really, really hard. And the pandemic has been really, really hard on me and my family. And I've dealt with some depression and stuff, and I've had to go see a doctor. And, I for a long time, man, my best friend has dealt with depression. And I've always just told him, hey, man, there's people in Africa, they don't have water and food. Like, just be thankful. And it's not that easy. I mean, there's chemical imbalances, and I got some medication and I'm feeling a lot better. But I think vulnerability is a superpower, right? And the more that we can admit our weaknesses, because we are all flawed human beings and all have weaknesses, that's true strength, right? So like Simone Biles, whether you agree with her or not, it's true strength what she did. Okay. And so for me, like, I wish I would have told my younger self to focus on these things earlier, because when I was in Colorado, my greatest asset as a kid was my mindset. But I lost belief in myself as a pro, and I started fearing failure. I started going out into the pitch, trying not to make a mistake. And that is the worst way to play, right? And so it led me to some real dark days. I mean, depression. I struggled with an eating disorder for a while, because I was trying to gain any edge I could. Right. And so that's what I did whenever I went up against something, doubled down on my fitness. But I wasn't going to get better until I really addressed the issue, which was my head and heart. I mean, guys, so I Tim, this is really interesting fact. And it just boggles my mind every time I say this, but like I played in every game I dressed for until my last year in Chicago when I got those 3 red cards I was telling you about in a row.
Yeah.
But I played every game, and I probably started more games than I subbed in at. But my kryptonite was not starting. I could not stand it, man. It ate me up. And like if I had the tools and the strategies that I have now, I think I would have been so much better, because it just crushed me, man. It really did. And I was embarrassed, man. Like if I didn't start, I didn't want anyone to know that I was playing. I didn't want my parents to know I was playing, because I felt like I sucked because I wasn't starting. Like at halftime, when starters are in like the good guys are in the locker room, I'd be on the pitch like warming up. And I'm like, so when I go to cities and I know people there, sometimes I wouldn't even reach out to them to say, hey, I'm in town, I want to hang out, because I wasn't starting. I was embarrassed. I'm like, man, that's so stupid. If only I would have had a growth mindset. And so back in my day in the MLS, like if you didn't start or play the majority of the game, you played in the reserve game.
Right.
And so I was too good for a freaking reserve game, right? I was too good for it. Why am I playing a reserve game? And I had that attitude. And man, if I could just go back and get 1% better in every reserve game I played, that would improve my chances of becoming a full-time starter astronomically. But I was so caught up in, man, I'm not starting. And really it stemmed from my thought life, man. And it just kind of spiraled out of control. So, and look, those same tendencies that I had as a player still sometimes reveal themselves today. Starting a business, can't get anybody to pick up my phone call, right? Like can't get anybody to sign on to Soccer Resilience. And it's like, man, the inner critic just starts rolling, and you got to figure out ways to shut that off, to reset. Breathing's a big one for me. Being present in the process. This is huge, guys. This is so big, the process, right? Because we talk about goals, we talk about purpose and keep your eyes on your goals. But if you just focus on the process, right? Getting better today. How can I get better today than I was yesterday? And, Kobe Bryant talks about this a lot, but 1% better every single day is like 37,000 times better at the end of the year than you were before the beginning of the year, right? So the process. And it's easy to say, man, I don't feel like I'm going to get to where I'm going. And we project those things. So stay in the present, because it's where everything happens.
You talked about everyone has their own path. Like there is no one correct way to end up in the MLS, or, to end up to be the best version.
Yeah.
Of ourselves. And I think that's a really important lesson, because I do believe we get into the mindset that in order to get to the end of the road, this is the only path. And that's not the case. And I think your story is a perfect example that you're going to achieve what you're going to achieve by what you put into it. And that's not just your technical ability, your tactical ability, your athleticism, but it's also your mindset. And a lot of your mindset is kind of this little list that we put together of dealing with setbacks, dealing with mistakes, and learning from them. And that's kind of what you wish you had, is a little bit better of a growth mindset.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that, obviously I learned, like I said, a lot of skills, and I was able to push myself and to fight, right, and to have a strong mindset as a kid. But just losing belief in myself as a pro, right? But what was your original question? I forgot.
I was just kind of talking about the growth mindset that no one has, that there is no one set path for everyone to achieve their goals, and each journey is unique to get there.
Yeah, we can't control what happens to us, Tim, but we can always control how we respond. And so what is going to serve you better? To complain, to whine, to figure out all the reasons why you can't do something, or to figure out all the reasons why it's going to happen, right? Like I believe in the power of positivity. I believe in visualizing what you want. We go where you focus, right? I don't know if you're ever driving a car and you turn your head to the right and you start veering off that way, because it's just such a simple illustration. You go where you focus. So in your daily life, what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on all the bad things that your coach said about you. Your inner critic is putting you down, your lack confidence, or are you focusing on all the mistakes you made? Or are you focusing on the good things that you did? So, I mean, there's story after story. I don't know why we believe that there's one way, but I could tell you a really cool story now. But Brad Knighton is the starting goalkeeper he's been starting for New England since Matt Turner's been with the national team. And Brad Knighton, we were rookies together in New England, and no one knew who Brad Knighton was. He was discovered through an open tryout. And so here I was the 5th overall pick. And granted, goalies do play longer, majority of them then, but still, that doesn't even explain it, because the average MLS career is like 3 years, right? And he's heading into this is his 15th season, man. 15th season. I mean, I played with guys that went to D3 schools that have unbelievable careers. I mean, you look at Chris Wondolowski. For like his first 4 years in the league, I don't think he scored more than 4 goals. I mean, as a forward in the MLS in any league in the world, you're not going to last long if you don't score too many goals. And look at him, man. He never stopped believing. And I think that goes back to your belief and your purpose. Like, people told me my whole life, Tim, I would never amount to anything. I was a screw up. I'd never make it. And that's for everybody. And you just have to smile it off and not listen to them, and have belief and have courage and be bold. I mean, look, Tim, they do study after study of people at the end of their lives that talk about their regrets, and it's their regrets of inaction, not action. And like, one of the things that I regret as a player is not watching more film of myself, right? That's how I originally reached out to Tim, because I got to know Tim, and I was like, Tim, I want to do a video on this, because man, if I could go back, and I would watch film of myself, because we don't see the world as it truly is. We see the world as we are, and we are flawed, and our perception isn't always reality. But you can't fool the third eye, right? You can't fool video. And oftentimes the way that we experience a game is very different from what the video shows. And a part of that for me, Tim, is like, so in the MLS, we had match play, which like broke down our plays. And I watched a little bit of that. Like, I'd watch my good stuff, but I never wanted to watch myself play. I didn't want to watch my bad plays. But gosh, I wish I would have gone back. I wish I would have studied. I wish I would have been more of a student of the game, and, seen where I was making mistakes and where I was struggling, and figured out ways to fix it. Right. Because now my regret is like, it sucks sitting here and saying, I wish I watched more film. Right. God, that sucks, because I really do. I really believe that it would have enhanced my game, and I could have been so much of a better player. And, film when I was growing up wasn't that big. So it's a little bit more common right now. Right. And so I think this goes back a little bit to taking your career, taking your life into your own hands. If you really want to be a pro athlete, you have all the tools in the world. And especially with a tool like Trace, like, watch yourself, study yourself, see where you can get better. Ask your coach, right? If you're not playing, ask your coach to explain some things to you. Ask your coach to go through film with you. Don't be afraid to watch yourself make mistakes, because really, guys, failure is not final. And really, failure and adversity is the way. We have to struggle our way to success and continue to fail. So the sooner that we can understand that and actually live that out in everyday life, which is hard, I'm not gonna lie, it's freaking hard, right? But continue to move forward and believe, the better we'll be. It's so easy. It's so easy to sit here and say this stuff, right? And all the thoughts in my head go, well, you should have done that yesterday, Wells. You should have believed in yourself yesterday, Wells, instead of giving up, and you should have made one more phone call. You know what I mean? Like, and you just have to, yeah, it's a process. Like, I don't have this all figured out, by the way. I am still like, when my 3 kids are freaking out, I'm breathing. I'm like, in through the nose, because in through your nose, you get more nitric oxide to the brain, 20%, belly breath, and then I'm breathing out again. And man, I didn't do that during a game, which is part of the pregame. You asked me earlier, the pregame routine, breathing during the national anthem, breathe, right? Take your brain out of that fight or flight stage, and calm yourself. But guys, it has to be proactive and not reactive. In the mental health space, it's all about being reactive. It's, I've got these issues, I've got to go get help for them. And I think it has to be proactive, right? You're not going to respond well in a game situation where things are crazy if you haven't really trained for that. And if you train, and maybe you will, right? Maybe you will, but if you've trained for it and you have tools and strategies to respond well, the chances are you're going to respond well more often.
I was kind of, I know we don't have much time left, but I was kind of reviewing kind of everything that we've been talking about, and we've got this slide obviously about trace up, but the underlying principle, it goes back to that growth mindset, like
it does. Yeah.
Being able to go through adversity, learn from mistakes, and then also being able to visually see that, not as you were participating it, but as you said, from the bird's eye view, from a very objective view. And I think a lot of the time players, when they come into any type of critical feedback loop, when they come into like, oh my gosh, my play, my playlist is ready, they kind of freak out because they're not ready for that growth. And I think it's approaching video analysis, in particularly, with Trace's individual playlist, like this is an unbelievable growth opportunity. And you made the perfect example that growth doesn't just happen to the best players, that may be a player who is really struggling, who may be player number 18 on the roster. But now all of a sudden, here's a tool like this. You match it with the growth mindset.
Yeah.
And now player number 18 is no longer player 18, but actual player number 1, all because of a little investment.
Yeah. And I think it's Tim, you hit the nail on the head, man. And it's self-awareness. I mean, I just think of like, I'm not starting, well, the coach is an idiot, and I think a lot of this, like we used to watch film together as a team, as a pro, and like, man, I would be fearful during those sessions because if I started and played, I'm like, how many times are you going to call me out? Right. And so I think it's a coach's kids, we're all different. Right. And at the end of the day, no matter what we're doing, it comes down to people. Right. So coaches, that's their job, right? Figuring out who's able to take the really hard constructive criticism, right? And who's the kid that needs an arm around them, that needs a positive sandwich, right? I was a positive sandwich kid. I didn't like you to yell at me. I really didn't. I hated it. I didn't like you to tell me what to do. But if you made me think I was making a decision for myself and that you love me and that you care about me as a human being, I'd run through a brick wall for you. You know what I mean? So I think it's the coach's job to figure those things out. But also, I think it's the player's job. I don't put all the onus on the coach. I think it's the player's job to understand that criticism it's how you view it. It's your perspective. Is it exposing you, or is it opportunity to get better? Growth mindset, Tim. Is it opportunity to get better? Is it helpful or unhelpful? Right. And I think we must, in order to grow into our full potential, have the perspective. It's helpful. It's helpful. I want to know what I'm doing wrong and I need to improve so that I can actually improve in those things. And so, Tim, I'm such a believer in community, in relationship. I think it's a huge component of resilience. And so I think that, I don't know how much you guys talk about this at Trace, but I feel like you maybe talk about it from an individual perspective a lot. Hey, go home, watch your clips, see how you can get better. I'd encourage you guys to find buddies, get groups on your team, someone you trust, and analyze it together. Like, you want to get better? That's how you do it. You're not just analyzing it from your perspective. Now you got a friend who loves you and you trust, that's actually going to tell you the truth. And that's how you know someone loves you, Tim. Someone loves you when they tell you the truth, right? Not when they butter you up. And so I think there's tremendous opportunity with Trace to grow your game with your buddies. Like, God, I want to do that right now. I want to go back in time and do that. How come you guys didn't create this earlier? You know what I'm saying?
So, sorry, we'll have to speak to David about that. But I
used to walk uphill both ways, man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting thing is a lot of the times we'll sit down with our playlist and we'll just review it, or our parents will sit down and review it with us, or maybe a coach. But you're right, oftentimes we don't turn to our teammates and say, hey, remember when this happened in the game and I've got
Yeah.
my phone with me, what were you doing, or how could I have helped you? And you're right, I don't think we lean on each other when it comes, or teammates don't lean on teammates when it comes to growth. They assume it's going to be a top-down approach. But I think that's a really great perspective.
Yeah. I think I was a leader, Tim. I think I am a leader, and I think everyone can be a leader. But I think as a kid, we don't understand the power of our voice and speaking up. And so I would ask kids to like lead your team. Like if you really want to grow, if you want to learn, if you want to be a pro, the odds are stacked against you. And you can choose to believe that it's not going to work and it'll never happen, or you can choose to believe and fight for it and have a growth mindset and go and give it everything you have. But one of the ways that you can grow is to study your film, to go over it with your team, to lead your team in this charge, to see how you can get better and grow.
No, I love that. I love that theme. I know we're running out of time, and Charles, I know you're back there. Were there any questions put up in the chat before we kind of wrap things up?
I don't think there are any questions right now, Tim. Maybe give a few seconds and then.
Yeah, I'd love to just throw something out there because
go ahead. Please.
I'm such a believer in this, and our brains are malleable, which means we can change them. And so when we focus on something like gratitude, right? We're actually, the more we focus on it, the better we get at it. And we're strengthening the connections in our brain to focus on the things we want to focus on. That's why gratitude sometimes isn't a quick fix. And man, I'm such a believer in gratitude. I'm such a believer in the power of, there's always something good you can find. And so again, brain's negative bias, a lot of negativity in the world, social media. What are we going to fill? I like to say Gijo is better than Bobo. So good in, good out, bad in, bad out. Right. So the things your gratitude, expressing that to people. Like, I'm really grateful for Tim and Charles. This is a really awesome opportunity. I love talking about myself. I'm kidding. But honestly, I love sharing my experience and talking about being a pro and what I wish I could do differently. But yeah, write some things down. Tell your parents you love them. Parents, tell your kids you love them and you're grateful for them just the way you created them. Gosh, parenting is hard, and you're awesome for doing what you do. But yeah, just grateful for this opportunity, Tim and Charles. Thank you so much.
No, that was awesome. Again, yeah, I don't kind of know how to. I don't think we can sum up anything anytime soon because we really covered a lot. But hopefully, for all the parents and players that were on with us this afternoon and this evening, you're able to pull out just a little bit, just one thing, whether it's development, growth set, video analysis, anything to help our players get better. The better our players become, the more they love the game, and the more that they love the game, our game spreads, and it's just kind of better for all of our soccer community. So again, I thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to Wells, and thank you for Charles behind the scenes who put this all together. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.